Hey everybody, it's Jessica Dwyer here, and I am back with a classic movie review for you. And I can't wait to tell you about this because this is a flick that I thought I had actually dreamed up because I saw it when I was so young and I thought I had dreamed it. I think I saw it when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And I'm an old broad, as is evident by the fact that I'm wearing this Forever Night t shirt because I used to watch Forever Night when it first started on TV, way back in a time called the late or early 90s. Early 90s. Oh, God, I'm so old. Anyway, I'm not as old as this movie. This movie is from 1959, and it is one of the first, possibly first, period, Western vampire films, and it is called Curse of the Undead. And Curse of the Undead is actually a Universal Pictures movie. It is a Universal monster film that you may never have heard of because no one really talks about it. So Curse of the Undead came out in 1959, the same year, I believe, as Horror of Dracula. And what's cool about Curse of the Undead in the Universal canon is that it is, in fact, not a part of the Universal Classics. The Universal Classic monster movies, kind of, this is the stepchild that's over here and no one thinks about. It's a fantastic film. I really, really love it. I finally hunted it down because I was like determined to realize that I did make this movie up. It was a real movie. And so Curse of the Undead stars a guy named Michael Michael Pate, who was actually an Australian actor who came to the States and then went back to Australia. And if you are a fan of werewolf movies, you may remember a flick called Howling 3, The Marsupials. And apparently he was the President of the United States in that movie. He came to America from Australia, went back to Australia, and ended up being the President of the United States. Go figure. Life is funny, isn't it? But in Curse of the Undead, Michael Pate plays the vampire who is named Drake Roby. So the plot of Curse of the Undead follows your typical Western fare mostly. There is a kindly town doctor who is also a ranch owner. And he and his beautiful young daughter are trying to figure out what is killing off all the beautiful young women in town. Surprise, it's a vampire, but they don't know that. There is also a handsome, studly preacher who is in love with the rancher's daughter, of course, and a spunky younger brother for the rancher's daughter who gets into trouble. The rancher is at odds with another rancher who is trying to take the doctor's land. And so Drake Roby, the vampire of the film, sees an opportunity and ends up offing the kindly doctor to insert himself into the life of the beautiful young daughter of the doctor, and is a gun for hire, which is another bit of regular Western legend and film. So he ends up falling in love with the rancher's daughter, and is it turns out his family, because he's not a young man, he's a vampire. His family actually owned the land previously, and his actual name was Drogo Robles. I believe it was Drogo. Yes, Drago Robles. Sorry about that. Drago Robles is his actual name, and this is the cool part of this movie because it doesn't follow your typical fare as was going on in the Universal Dracula series, which was you get bitten by a vampire, you become a vampire. Same thing with the Hammer films. That's how you become a vampire there. What happened with Drago was his brother ended up marrying his sister, or I'm sorry, that would have been weird. Drago's brother married his lady love, and when he came back and discovered this, he ends up killing his brother. And in the chaos of that, he decides that he can't live with what he did, so he ends up killing himself. So it kind of follows the more typical mythology, the like actual mythology of vampires, not movie verse mythology, but actual the myth of the vampire legends, where if you are a suicide or have a death that's seen as a sin in the eyes of God, you get cursed. And so he is, as the title suggests, has the curse of the undead. And he ends up becoming a vampire because of his suicide. As the film progresses, of course, you know, you're going to have your confrontation with the buff preacher who actually has a really interesting artifact that he utilizes to stop the vampire. And this is another cool bit of what makes this movie stand out, besides being this mashup of Western and a horror film and a vampire film, is that the artifact that is used, you know, of course it's a Western, so there's going to be a gunfight as the ending. And the artifact is a crown thorn from Christ's thorn of crowns. Blech, crown of thorns. God. That is he uses and carves into a piece that can fit on a bullet. So the vampire is destroyed by an actual thorn from the crown of Christ. That is pretty awesome and deep for a sort of B grade level universal vampire flick. So it's really, really cool. And so the writer and director of this movie, Edward Dean, he did one other movie after this, and then he went into television for the rest of his career, I believe, and that was The Leech Woman. Edward Dean had a lot of love for animal human hybrids, I guess, because he did another movie called The Leopard Man, and just a lot of B flicks. But Curse of the Undead was a step above, I really think, and a really, really cool flick, and a neat one of the first Western horror films, which was really cool, you know. And later on you would you know, of course, have the one that everybody thinks of when they think of Western vampire flick, like Near Dark, or for those of us with all the love for Bruce Campbell in 1980s flicks and early 90s flicks, Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat, which I love, and if you haven't seen, you really should check out. Or Billy the Kid versus Dracula, which is the other one that everyone thinks of. But Curse of the Undead definitely deserves props and deserves to be recognized. It is a Universal film, and even though it's not considered one of the canon films for Universal, like Bride of Frankenstein, The Wolfman, and all those guys, it is a Universal horror film and a vampire film. You aren't going to probably find it easily on DVD. I don't even know if it's ever been released on DVD. They did release it on VHS when they did that awesome collection of all of those Universal classics back, I think, in the 90s. It was one of those that came out, like, I think The Ghoul was another one that they released at that time. But you definitely should find it. Try to find it. It's worth watching. It's got some beautiful, really cool, creepy music, very atmospheric, and it's just neat that you have this one-off vampire that doesn't fit in that mold of the Count or any of that, those flicks, but still draws upon that cool mythology that is the basis for all these vampire myths out of Europe. And he's a Spanish nobleman, and it's just really cool. I can't stress enough how neat this is if you didn't know about this flick, discovering it. So we're going to show you the trailer. You should go find it. It may be floating around online somewhere. Check it out, do a search, see if you can find it on Amazon or somewhere to watch, because you owe it to yourself, if you're a vampire fan, a classic horror fan like I am, to see this movie. I'm so glad I didn't imagine it, because man, if I had imagined this, I my brain is magic. But I didn't imagine it. It's real. So check it out. Here's the trailer. Thanks, and I'll be back with some more found treasures for you guys. See ya.
What was he, this being half human, half what? Appearing out of the nightmare darkness. Evil his face, evil his deeds.
Do you really think I'd invent something as horrible as all this just to get rid of a ranch hand?
I don't know what to think. I only know that I can't accept such a thing as a vampire.
His victims, the young and the beautiful, as well as the bold and the strong.
You was just lucky the other night when my man missed you. If that was me, you'd be pushing dirt.
Don't reach for your gun. Will you get out of here?
You call the time.
Are they doomed, all who oppose him?
Drake!
Can nothing human stop him?
I hit him. I know I hit him.
If I can't do it now with your consent, I'll go into Banning and get a court order. But I'm going to open those coffins.
See you dead first! Now get out!